Some stories are so outrageous they seem impossible to believe. A secret plan by the US government to stage terrorist attacks against its own citizens to justify a war? It sounds like the plot of a dystopian novel. But what if I told you it almost happened? They dismissed it as paranoia. They called it conspiracy. But buried deep within declassified documents lies the chilling truth. Welcome to the Unknown Archive, where today we expose the shocking reality of Operation Northwoods. It's the early 1960s. The Cold War is at its peak. The United States and the Soviet Union are locked in a fierce battle for global supremacy. But just 90 miles off the coast of Florida lies a new adversary, Fidel Castro's Cuba. After the failed Bay of Pigs invasion in 1961, tensions between the US and Cuba reach a boiling point. The American government is desperate to remove Castro from power, but public support for another military intervention is weak. How do you convince a nation to back a war it doesn't want? The answer was Operation Northwoods. Drafted in 1962 by the Joint Chiefs of Staff, America's highest-ranking military leaders, Operation Northwoods was a top-secret proposal designed to manipulate public opinion through deception. The goal? To manufacture a pretext for invading Cuba. But this wasn't about propaganda or psychological operations. This was about staging real events with real victims. The plan outlined a series of covert operations that would involve false flag attacks carried out on American soil and against U.S. military targets. Ideas included hijacking commercial airliners and crashing them, sinking boats filled with Cuban refugees, staging violent shootings in American cities, and even orchestrating bombings that would result in civilian casualties. The blame for these atrocities would then be placed squarely on Cuba, creating widespread outrage and giving the U.S. government the public support it needed to launch a full-scale military invasion. One of the most chilling proposals suggested faking the destruction of a U.S. aircraft, complete with a fabricated passenger list of American citizens. The plan involved swapping the real plane with an uncrewed drone mid-flight, then detonating it over the Caribbean Sea, making it appear as if it had been shot down by Cuban forces. Another idea proposed staging terrorist attacks in Miami and Washington, D.C., with planted evidence linking them to Cuban operatives. The goal was clear: to manipulate the American people through fear, anger, and grief. Operation Northwoods wasn't the brainchild of rogue agents. It was endorsed by the Joint Chiefs of Staff, including General Lyman Lemnitzer, the chairman at the time. The plan was formally presented to Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara and was intended to be approved by President John F. Kennedy. But Kennedy was appalled. He rejected the proposal outright, refusing to authorize such deceitful and morally bankrupt tactics. Shortly after, Kennedy dismissed General Lemnitzer from his position, and Operation Northwoods was buried in the classified archives, until it resurfaced decades later through declassified documents obtained via the Freedom of Information Act. The plan outlined a series of false flag operations, covert missions where attacks would be carried out to appear as if they were orchestrated by the Cuban government. These weren't small-scale schemes. They proposed hijacking civilian airplanes, sinking refugee boats, and even staging bombings in American cities. Innocent people would be harmed or killed, all to fabricate a justification for war. The document even mentioned framing Cuba for a series of high-profile assassinations, creating a narrative that would unite the American public in a call for military intervention. The goal was to manipulate emotions and public opinion to support a war that many believed was critical to halting the spread of communism. Consider this. One proposal suggested blowing up a U.S. ship in Guantanamo Bay, complete with mock funerals for the fake victims to stir national outrage. Another idea involved orchestrating a violent campaign of terrorism in Miami, targeting Cuban exiles, to make it look like Castro was a threat not just abroad but on American soil. The lengths they were willing to go were staggering. The plan even included faking the assassination of a prominent Cuban figure, which would have been blamed on Castro's regime, further fueling the call for military action. The cruelty of these operations is chilling, designed with the sole purpose of swaying the American public and manipulating international opinion to justify a violent response. The mastermind behind this audacious plan was General Lyman Lemnitzer, then chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Lemnitzer and his colleagues believed that such extreme measures were necessary to protect U.S. interests. They framed it as a strategic move in the broader context of the Cold War, where the ends justified the means. They assumed that the public would not question their methods, trusting the government's narrative of protecting freedom from communism. However, the proposal ignored the moral implications and the lives of innocent civilians who would be sacrificed for political gain. It's a stark reminder of the ruthless calculus that sometimes drives military strategy. But not everyone agreed. When Operation Northwoods reached President John F. Kennedy's desk, he was reportedly appalled. Kennedy flatly rejected the proposal, refusing to authorize such morally reprehensible actions. He understood the devastating consequences it could have, not just for Cuba, but for the U.S. itself. His decision was a testament to his commitment to not sacrifice American values for political maneuvering, especially in such a volatile time. Shortly after, he removed Lemnitzer from his position, signaling his disapproval of the plan and its dangerous trajectory. The plan was buried, locked away in the classified vaults of history, but its existence has since served as a chilling reminder of the lengths some in power are willing to go. The rejection of Operation Northwoods is often viewed as a pivotal moment in Kennedy's presidency, showcasing his willingness to challenge military leadership and avoid unnecessary escalation. His commitment to diplomacy over deceit and violence may have been one of the factors that contributed to his growing opposition to the military-industrial complex. In the years that followed, this stance would shape his policies, particularly as the U.S. became embroiled in the Vietnam War. Had Kennedy approved Northwoods, history could have been dramatically different. This moment serves as a stark contrast to the sometimes murky moral decisions made by other leaders during the Cold War. The plan remained classified for decades, with details only coming to light in the 1990s, thanks to the release of government documents and the efforts of investigative journalists. The revelations sparked public outrage and further distrust in the government's handling of international affairs during the Cold War. It raised profound ethical questions about the use of false flag operations and manipulation of public sentiment. Today, Operation Northwoods stands as a cautionary tale, illustrating how easily the line between national security and moral compromise can blur in times of political and military tension. Or so they thought. Decades later, in the 1990s, the truth resurfaced. Thanks to the efforts of the Assassination Records Review Board, tasked with declassifying documents related to JFK's assassination, Operation Northwoods was uncovered. The documents revealed the shocking extent of the military's willingness to deceive its own people. The public reaction? Outrage mixed with disbelief. How could the government even consider such actions against its citizens? But there it was, in black and white, signed by the highest military officials in the land. Operation Northwoods raises unsettling questions. If such a plan was drafted and almost executed, what else might be hidden in the shadows of history? Were there other proposals like this? Did any of them actually happen without public knowledge? And here's the part that will make you think. While Operation Northwoods was never carried out, it set a precedent. It showed that even in democratic societies, leaders could conceive of unimaginable acts under the guise of national security. So what do you think? Was Operation Northwoods an isolated incident, or just one chapter in a much larger story? Could similar plans exist today, hidden behind the veil of classified documents and national security protocols? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if there's a mystery you want us to uncover next, share it with us. We might just feature it in our next episode of The Unknown Archive. The unknown isn't just out there. It's all around us. Thanks for watching The Unknown Archive. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and remember, sometimes the most unbelievable stories turn out to be true.